Last week we talked about the groundbreaking ceremony for the Habitat for Humanity house. We're so excited for this. We did have the groundbreaking ceremony. These are a couple of pictures from that you're able to see. Michael, how was the digging part? Was it?
It wasn't my muscles. The ground was frozen.
The ground was frozen. If you weren't there, he I was right behind him. That's me right there. I'm right behind him. And the shovel went, dong. I mean, it even made a sound. It hit so hard. Yeah, it did. That ground was rock solid. But it was a great afternoon to dedicate the home. This is Nemia. Thank you. Sorry. This is Nemia. She's the single mom who's going to be getting the house. She's the one over 100 applicants through Habitat for Humanity, and they selected her. She has a 6 or 7 year old daughter, and they'll be moving into the house. She is. And if you don't know the process of Habitat for Humanity, she has to put in so many hours of volunteer work, not only on her house, but on the previous house that's being built right now. So she has to put in hours of volunteer helping build that house, so she has to put in hours of volunteer work on her own house as it's being built. So I mean, she is invested in this. It's not just keys handed to her saying, here's your house. So anyone through Habitat for Humanity has to put in some sweat equity for the house. With that being said, here the plan is, so groundbreaking ceremony, they're going to be putting in the foundation and all the plumbing work, and hopefully by March, it will be ready to go for volunteer teams to come in and start working on the house. So all the other stuff is being contracted out, but then come March, volunteer teams. And so what we're asking, since Southeast is spearheading this initiative and we're doing this house, we hope to have most of the volunteer teams from Southeast doing these works. And the plan is that we will, with groups or different peoples, will adopt a Saturday. So like my small group will say, you know what, we have the first Saturday in March when they open, groups, and we'll go over there and go and do this. So our plan is that our Man Challenge people will be one Saturday. And, there's many of us here. I know not everyone can make it on a Saturday, depending on, of course, the Saturday that we choose. But we want to be able to choose a Saturday. We want to call Scott, the guy that's over it, and we want to say, Scott, guess what? We're going to have a large group there. Give us something big. Whether that's framing, whether it's doing, the roof, whatever it is, so we hope to have one, maybe 2 Saturdays that we adopt as a Man Challenge group to go over there and work on this house. So it'll be a Saturday. Like the goal is March, but it's winter. There's going to be weather delays on construction. This day and age, there's going to be supply delays with different things. So the goal is March, but it might get pushed back. So that's why we can't give you a date. We can't say, okay, March 1st, we're doing this, because we just don't know yet. It's all a matter of when they get the foundation, when they get the plumbing all done and finished and ready to be handed over to us. Okay? So I'm just wanting to float that out to you, let you know, give you the idea, get it in the back of your mind so you're thinking of it. So when we do announce it finally, saying, hey, this Saturday, this is a Man Challenge day, you'll know, okay? So you can be able to sign up for it and be able to participate in it. And it's going to be a wide range of that. I do know they also need people. They need people throughout the week, but those people that they're needing throughout the week are people with some skills, okay? And a little bit behind the scenes, just to know, they have volunteer teams come on Saturday and they do all the work and build and stuff, and then the rest of the week they have the people with the skills that come in and they kind of fix or make sure things are up to code, ready to go for the next Saturday. Okay, so if you are available, if you have time, this is not just a couple hour thing. It's a pretty intense volunteer work that they need. But if you're retired, if you have time, if you just feel led that, like, you know what, that's me, talk to Michael or I. We'll get you in touch with Scott, who's over the Habitat for Humanity. They do need people with that type of time and those types of skills. So, okay, Habitat for Humanity, we're excited about it. We're excited that we at Southeast, our E-Town campus, can provide this for this family here locally. This is the money that we raise for the One at a Time Fund, and this is something that we can use to impact here locally. which is great. So this week, as we continue our series of One at a Time, the topic is in, then through. In, then through. Last week we talked about, seeing people with the zoom lens. Instead of seeing just the group, we can sit there and we can zoom in on one person and see those people one at a time. But this week what we're talking about in and then through. Kyle used the illustration, and the Bible uses the illustration of the image of a garden. When you have a garden, it doesn't happen overnight. You don't put in the work in the morning, and then by the evening you have your produce or your harvest to reap the benefits of it. I mean, if you've ever put a garden in, how many of you ever put a vegetable garden in? It takes work. It takes hard work. We had some property, and my wife really, really wanted a garden. And I said, okay, great. I'll till it for you, but then it's all you. It's all you. I mean, I'm not doing anything else but that.
How'd that work out?
Steve, absolutely. I tilled it. She planted it. And, I mean, it's hard work. Now, I in her defense, she wanted like 3 plants, and I did half the yard. Okay, I was like, no, we can do this. We can till all the. You got all this area. No, you can do that. So, it was quite bigger than what she wanted initially. But it's a lot of work, to put it in a garden and to take care of the garden and to water the garden and to hoe the garden and to do all the stuff when it takes. And then when the harvest does come, it's even more work because you have to pick the fruit, you have to pick the tomatoes, you have to do all that stuff, then you have to can them. Gardens are a lot of work, and it doesn't happen overnight. In the sermon, Kyle was talking about Jesus, and we're going to look at 2 people this morning with the illustration of in then through. And one of the ultimate examples we have is Jesus. And in Mark 1, 32, 36, we see, I'll read it for you. It says, that evening after sunset, the people brought to Jesus all the sick and the demon-possessed. The whole town gathered at the door, and Jesus healed many. Back in those day and age, they didn't live in huge, metropolises or, big cities like you even say E-town. But they were still big towns. There's still big areas. And it says the whole town gathered for Jesus to meet with them and to heal them and to do something from them. That's a lot of people. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Simon and his companions went to look for him. And when they found him... Oh, sorry. What just happened? There we go. Sorry about that. And when they found him, they exclaimed, everyone is looking for you. Everyone is looking for you. But where was Jesus? What was he doing? He had all these people that were needing something from him, all these people who were looking for him, all these people who were trying to get something from Jesus at the time. But what was Jesus doing? He was praying. This is a cave, obviously. This is a cave overlooking the Sea of Galilee. Down below is the city of Capernaum, at least the ruins of it. And they don't know, if Jesus used this cave or not. But the hillside above Capernaum is littered with little caves and little spaces just like this. And this is where Jesus would go. This is where Jesus went. Because it said he went up into the hillside. He went up out of the country. He went up out of the city early in the morning. And he spent time with his Lord. Spent time with his Father. Jesus had a lot to do. The entire town was there wanting something from him. Needing him to heal them. And Jesus still took time to step away and spend time with his father because he needed to know what the Lord wanted him to do that day. So often we have these moments where we want to just jump in. We want the results. We want the fruit of our labor before we even do the labor. I don't want to belabor or talk about this, but we had a lady come to our next step room. She came after the service. She sat down with me, and she was just dead set on, the Lord has told me I need to sell everything I have and go into the mission field. And I'm sitting there going, oh, okay, that's great, that's wonderful, and I heard a little bit of her story, and I'm like, so are you involved, with missions somewhere? No. Have you ever been outside of the country before? No. But God is really telling me I need to sell everything I have and work in the mission field. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Are you serving anywhere here? No. Are you doing anything in the community? No. But God's telling me I need to go and I need to sell everything. I sell my house and go into the mission field. And I was like, I don't think he's telling you that. I'm sorry to tell you that, but I don't think he is. He might be. I don't think he is, because we have these moments where we want to do these huge, grand things for God. And all God is telling you is meet with me. Spend time with me. I also, in the mission field, I was there. One of my roles was mission teams would come over, and we would have up to around 30 or 35 mission teams come over in a year. And inevitably, always, there's one or two people on the team that's like, oh, I'm doing this. I'm coming back. I'm doing this. I'm gonna come move over here. And I'm like, okay, all right, great. What's God telling you? Oh, well, we gotta, and then, unfortunately, you never really see those people again. The church comes back, the team comes back the next year, and oh, where's Bill? What happened to him? Oh no, he was too busy. He went on a cruise this year. It's just where's your heart? Where's your heart? That's what Jesus. That's what Kyle is trying to say is Jesus wants to do a work in you before he can do a work through you. Another example I saw of this was the story of Daniel. You all know the story of Daniel, especially the Daniel in the lion's den. And Daniel was working under the King Darius, and he was one of the very high official in his government. And some people were jealous of Daniel, and so they decided that they were going to cause him to fall. And so they tried to find, any little dirt that they could on Daniel, and they couldn't. Because Daniel was a man of high character. Daniel was a man of high integrity. Whatever Daniel did was blessed with that. And so they knew the only way they can get Daniel was to attack his God. And so they went to King Darius and they said, King Darius, you are such a great man. You are such a wonderful person. We need to make a law for the next 30 days. If anyone prays to anyone but you, they need to be thrown into a lion's den. And Darius is like, yeah, you're right, absolutely. And they knew that that's the only way that they can get to Daniel. So of course they found Daniel praying to his God. And they went back to Darius and said, Darius, we found someone that's supposed to do this and that wasn't supposed to be praying. And they prayed to their God. And Darius said, okay, who is it? And it was Daniel. And Darius was so upset and so distraught. But his word was law, and he had to follow through. And so they had to throw Daniel in the lion's den. We know the story. We know what happens. Throughout the night, King Darius was so upset he didn't eat, he didn't do anything. And the very next morning, he ran out there and he had the stone removed and he called out to Daniel, Daniel, are you still there? Daniel, are you still alive? And Daniel said, yes, I am. The Lord shut the mouths of the lions. I'm going to ask you a question. When did Daniel have his faith? You know, was it that night in the lion's den? I'm sure Daniel was praying. You know, but where was his faith worked out? The story is found in Daniel 6. And we're going to pick it up in verse 10. It says, when Daniel learned that the decree had been signed and posted, he continued to pray just as he'd always done. You know, Daniel's faith didn't begin in that lion's den. Daniel's faith was every day up to that point. You know, it didn't take some big moment for Daniel to sit there and finally drop to his knees and says, God, what do you need? God, I'm here for you. God, I'm ready to go. It was every day. And he's always done. We have these moments in life when we want to do these big, grand things for God. And what God is always telling us is, you know what? No, I want you. I want you each and every day. And so we talk about this one at a time initiative and how we see people one at a time. And we're asking God, who is it, God? Who is it? Who is it that you want us to see? And God is sitting there saying, who is it? It's you. You know, I want to start with you. So many times I've been banging this drum. It's like, you know, God is more interested in who you're becoming than what you're doing. So when we have those moments where we're just like, we want to do big things for God, God is saying, you know what, I want to do big things in you. In you. Matthew 6:33 says, seek His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. You know, that's talking about worry. That's talking about worry, but that's also talking about just our lives. You know, we have to seek God first. We have to put Him first. We have to do the small things, the daily things, the things that we've always done, if we want God to use us in big ways. You know, I love Michael was asking us last week, is like, who is our person? Who is our one at a time? And I can tell you, I struggled coming up with a name. I did. I struggled coming up with the name of who my one at a time is. And I don't know if it's me or if you have the same thing, but for me, when I think of one at a time, I think of the people that are truly unplanned. You know, the ones that I don't, you know, who I'm going to meet today, I don't know. I don't know who it is because I haven't met him yet. You know, but it's those opportunities that I have in front of me that do I see them as God sees them. And I can tell you, and I'm trying not to sound arrogant in this statement, but I have opportunities and I help people all the time, and I truly don't remember most of them. I don't. Just the way it is. But let me tell you, I have opportunities and I have one at a time moments. And the ones that I fail at are the ones that I remember. Those are the ones that stick to me. There was a time, I don't know if you know exactly my role here, but you know, one of the elements I have of this is I'm over like the baptism. People come forward, they get baptized. You know, that's part of my job that I make sure all that's done. Typically we have those scheduled, and someone comes forward, you know, they want to get baptized, say, okay, you know, what Sunday you want to do it? They tell us, we get it scheduled, and that's good. Of course, we have one of these Sundays where everything's going wrong. We have a lot of 1,000 fires to put out. I'm walking around, and someone says, hey, someone's here to see you. And I walk over in between services, and there's this girl, and she's like, hey, I'm here to get baptized. Are you kidding me? I got 1,000 other things that are happening. Everyone needs something. We've emailed and texted you, you know, 100 times throughout this week, and you never got back to us. And here you just show up and you want to get baptized. I'm not saying that to her, but of course I'm saying it in my head. I was like, what? Oh my goodness. He's like, all right, let's go back. We'll do this. And I take her back there. I sit down, and she starts to share her sweet, amazing story of God's redemptive love. She's in recovery, and just how much God has brought her from just the depths of hopelessness up to this. And I'm sitting there just being slapped in the face over and over and over again. It was like, wow. Who am I? I mean, who am I to think that what I was doing was so important that I didn't have time for that? I didn't see her one at a time initially. It took God to really put me in my place to see that. Those are moments that I have these opportunities for one at a time. And I'm not saying that God's not doing a good work in me, because He is. But those are the times that I fail. Those are the times that I'm not seeing people as Jesus sees them. I'm busy. I'm doing other things. I think my plans are much bigger than what God has planned. I'm not in step with what God has for me. Over in Poland, another a job that I did is we had a big festival where teams would come in from the States, and we'd have up around 250, 300 people would come over, and we would do service projects in the city. We call it the Contact Festival. We go and we contact the city. We touch them, we love them, no strings attached. We do as much as we can. And one of my roles was we would go through and we would evaluate the apartments and the projects that we would do. With that many people, we would need, 70, 75 apartments that we'd have to renovate or be able to renovate. And so we would go from apartment to apartment. Some of them you would not imagine the squalor that people live in a modern country. We walked into one. There's a man, he lived by himself. He had disability. I think he had some mental problems, but he also had a problem with his leg. He used a crutch to get around. And we walk in, there's several different factors we need to look at. One is, can with a bunch of novices finish a project in a matter of 4 days? Can we do this? Is it too big for us to handle, or can we do this? The other thing is, are they trying to better themselves? Are they just living in it and not really trying to make themselves better? That's another factor too. We walk in, we're talking to this man, and as I'm looking around, it's dirty. It's dirty, of course. A lot of that stuff is dirty, but there's this black streak along the wall. All around the wall. Myself and the guy I was with, Kuba, we're looking at it and we're like, what is that? It's just dirt. It's just dirt. The doorways, from each room it was just black with dirt. And the whole time she's like, I've seen dirt. I've seen dirty apartments. What is that? Oh well, we talked to him, kind of figure out his story a little bit, and we realized, okay, this will be a good apartment for him. We're walking out to leave, and they had like a 2-door security door, and we shut one of the doors to walk around, and we realized that we missed a room. It ended up being the bathroom. In those horror movies where someone's walking into a house and they're walking into it and you're like, don't walk in there. Don't look in there. We shouldn't have looked in there. We opened the door. It was the bathroom. We looked in there, and it was floor to ceiling poop. I don't know how he got up that high. No idea. I could not get out of that apartment fast enough. Just like, oh my goodness. It was just sickening. And then it just dawned on me what the dirt was and all around the room and on the things. And I got out into the park, onto the sidewalk with Kuba, and the whole thing I sat there and said was, I shook his hand! I shook his hand! After the shock of it wore off, Kuba went and he had an old T-shirt that he went and like wrapped his hand in because we couldn't wash it off or anything. So he drove his car with the T-shirt wrapped around his hands, and I'm sitting there like this, going home. But after the shock of it wore off, we're sitting there going, that's it. If we do nothing else that whole week, it's just this man that needs help. I'm so glad I saw that on the way out and not on the way in. We would have probably turned around and walked out. Not because he didn't need help, but just because I would sit there and said, "It's poop. That's it's poop." God wants to do an amazing work in you. Then He can do a work through you. One at a time is such an important part of our church. I love this about our church. It is the currency. The one at a time stories are the currency of our church. I don't think since I've been here, it's coming up on, it'll be a year in April. I don't know if I've ever truly heard numbers. Oh, we've had this many thousands come. Oh, we've had this many things come. We've done this many people have participated. I've not in a meeting heard this. But every single meeting I step in and every single time we get together, we talk about the one. The story of the one person. How this one person was affected. How this one person was ministered to. How this one person's life was changed through the grace of Jesus. And I love that about our church. We're doing this study of one at a time, but Southeast has been doing one at a time for a long time. And we need to unleash the full force of the church to see people one at a time, just like Jesus. I have a couple questions for you. Just to get you thinking, just to get you going. The last one I want to point this one out to you. It says, what is the Lord trying to do in you specifically? Okay? This is a intentional, deep-rooted question I put in there. You. What's He doing in you specifically? I just wanted to address that and say that because that's the intent of that question is like, what's going on with you? All right? I won't pray. We're a little behind, sorry. But we'll let you jump into your tables and talk this out. Okay?